Okay, Roger once again from Mud Fossil University. Today I'm going to teach you where all the gold is in the world, and there is tons and tons and tons and tons of it, and it's not hard to get. It just has never been understood where it is. And it is, as I said in my other videos, at the bottom where the giants stood up, where the blood in the arterial passageways, which have no restrictions, eventually drifted down to the bottom of their feet and into the lower arterial branches, and then they form what they call ram's horns, which is these little curves of gold and silver and so forth. Now this is Devil's Tower, and this was a giant's foot, and the wrinkly portion here at the top is what's called the abrupt transition. And when it breaks at this abrupt transition, which is a little flatter than a pancake, as you can see, this is under tension and it creates that wrinkle. These are the tendon fibrils, which I'll show you in a minute. This is what's called the calcaneus tendinous material. It comes down, and if you can see this at the bottom, that is the rear attachment of the calcaneus tendon material. And right down there is a arterial vessel, and I can see other ones, and I believe this right up at the top here, whoops, right there, I'm almost sure but I can't be positive, is the blood supply that comes down through this series of tendons, and they'll be all around here. And in my CAT scans I can see them as these little dots, and they come around the outside of these structures. Now, I'm going to show you some of the anatomical evidence that supports what I'm saying. So my claim is that this is where the bone would have been in the back, and then it flares out like this. This has nothing to do with a tree ring or anything. Trees have here, and then they don't flare out like that. It flares out like that. Now normally there's a piece that breaks off, and that piece would have completed this, and I believe that's for the fibula. Now it would have headed out this direction. So let me show you the anatomical drawings, and I will show you where the gold collects. Okay, this is the anatomy of the vascular system, and blood comes down in these. This would be full of red blood, and this is full of red blood. And the red blood means it's oxygenated. It's come from the heart and through the heart and the lungs and receives oxygen, and it turns red again. Once it passes through the tissue of the body, and all of the little tissue bits extract the oxygen and so forth, it ends up turning blue, because it now is no longer FeO3, it's FeO2, it's lost in oxygen, and it is sucked back up to the heart and the lungs again to get more oxygen. Now this, look at this structure. You see this here, and these little hooks that come off. You see that? I'm going to show you something about gold in a second. All right, you see that? That's the same structure. The blood runs down. Of course, it would have run down from this way. This would have been facing up. It runs down, and as it collects in the curve of the bottom, it plugs up, and then it starts to drain into those little bits and pieces towards the tissues, and that's when it plugs up here and it fills back up until all the gold has drifted to the bottom of the body. And I'll show you the bodily structure and why that does occur. But you can easily see the similarity in the blood vessel and this, what they call, I believe they call these ram's horns. And they're not infrequent, but they're infrequent in gold because they don't. I don't think they know where to look for them for the gold. They find them in other areas in silver primarily, is what I'm told. All right, there's the vascular network in the body. All of the red is the arterial stuff, and there's no plugs, and there's no valves or clamps or whatever you want to call them inside of the arterial network. So when blood passes through there, it's totally unrestricted. It pushes as fast as the heart can pump it. And the big arterial passageways bring blood down to the extremities and so forth. Now, here's what happens. And the blue stuff is where it sucks it back up into the heart, as you can see. So the heart is going to be black and red in mud fossils. Because let me show you what happens. Hold on a second. Here it is. All right. In mud fossils, it's a little bit different. There's red and there's black. You see the black here? Let me see if we'll be able to see this. You see the black right there? That black is from expended blood, and that's being sucked back up. It comes down red. Now it's rusty looking color. That's just what happens to blood when it hits oxygen in the air. Unrestricted in the body, it's red. Now, and it turns browner and browner and browner, and then darker, 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 and then all of a sudden it gets black, real black, as black as the ace of spades, shiny black, because it's got to go back up and to get reoxygenated. So that's what happens here, and in the hearts, you're going to find a black side, and then there'll be a lot of red on the other side. So I'm just telling you what happens here. Now, here's this guy standing up. He just drowned standing up. Those giants were literally miles tall. And I'm telling you, and it says it in the Bible, in the ancient passages all over the world, not just in the Bible either. So, you know, if you want to argue that point, good for you. I got the evidence. Now, they're miles tall. They drowned standing in the mud for probably years and years, standing there, flotated, however you want to notate, the flotate. They're standing. Their arms would have been drifted down to their side more than likely. Any blood that was in their body, the heaviest components of the blood are going to drift down through the open arterial passageways, like that, see, all the way down to the feet, and then they're going to collect in those little ram's horns. All right, there's the foot that I'm talking about, and this is where there's tendons run down. You can't really see them in this type of an x-ray, but they come down and they lock in here, and that was all the stuff we saw on that other one. And of course they wrap around and they hold tight to the foot. You've got a ton of structural grabbing going on down there to hold on to your foot. It's just the nature of the deal. And down in here is where you have what they call the, I believe they call them the calcaneus arterial branches. And this is the calcaneus tendon that comes down and attaches to here. And as it comes up, it has an extremely strong attachment, which is called the abrupt transition, and when it breaks straight as a pancake, as you saw. And I'll show you all of the anatomical stuff to go along with this. It's quite well documented. This is not, and they're not just there either. They're all over the world, these gigantic, you know, I mean, you see what you can see there. If you can't see that was a foot. Now, coming off the front, it's all eroded away. And I believe these were no toes. And you see the depth of this foot? How deep that foot is. We found no toes, and it's a different type of a foot, extremely thick foot. Hold on one second, I have one right here. And they had no toes. Hold on, let me get a light. And I have seen them and found them all over the earth, and people have been sending me pictures of them from everywhere. Okay, this is what the no toes are. Here's what it is. You see this? And hold on, I'll turn this off. All right, that's a no toe. And you see the front, there's no toes in there. And this is not in a shoe or anything. And they had kind of some strange looking patterns in them that and anytime you see this, that's where there was a layer of blood. Just like this here. You look at your own foot, you have the veins run right across your foot just like that. It looks like a flip-flop thing. Now, in the back, that's where the bone is, and that's what I showed you at Devil's Tower. And it ran off this way. It's eroded and broken off here, and all that stuff is removed, or actually it's coming up higher than this at Devil's Tower. And this is lower, I believe, or in that nature. Now, this is where the heel comes down, and the fibia breaks off because it's not attached like the tibia. And that's your no toes. And you see the depth of it? Look at that. And look at that. They have their own like soles. I'm not kidding you. That's built into the normal shoe. There's some of this is missing at the bottom. There was another ball at the bottom, and I have those too that are complete. But they were deep, these things, and that is all the product of the foot. And Tish Egerton in Missouri discovered some that are eroded to a point where we can see exactly the articulation of the feet. Hold on, maybe I can show you those now. Now, here's the one that Tish found. And she's found both feet, not just this one, but the other one. The other one is eroded all the way, the toes are missing, which I have tons of these toes. They just fall off the ends. Now, the structure is totally different. Inside, instead of having a bone-looking structure like we have, it has a set of 3 springs in a row. It's very, very strange. And she found both feet. She found some of the other parts of the body. It's a complete body that was there, including tools. So this is not something we're just fooling around with. Now, all the other stuff that I have, the giants, which I have a lot of giants, and they've been DNA tested, 3 DNA tested, ancient protocols, took months to do it, very expensive. Had 7 CAT scans on industrial 3D scanners. I had them analyzed by a person that owns an autopsy school and teaches autopsy world around. So it's fully documented, fully certified, and fully validated, and fully capable to stand behind this evidence 100%. But I need academia to take a look at it. They keep claiming it needs to be peer reviewed, and they refuse to review it. So they're hiding from this evidence because it supports things in the past that support God, and they don't like the idea of God. They don't allow God into their thinking. They say, oh, don't come here with religion, don't come here with God. That's all baloney. Well, my friends, they're in big trouble. I'm going to tell you that right now, because the things I read that God said about them is just terrible. Really just terrible. I can't believe God feels that much hatred against these people. And I'm serious. You read Peter 2:24, and you're going to find out how God does feel about academics and teachers. Alright, you see what I talk about, a piece falling off of the side of the foot? You see this fibula? That's the little tiny bone that comes down, that hooks on the side of your foot right here. The tibia is the big bone that comes in the middle, and that's where all of that stuff, all of those tendon fibrils are coming down. You can see them, they look like a bulb right around the bottom. It's quite obvious. This piece falls off. That's why you have the flare in the front that I show. Alright, here's the whole deal. That's the tendon enthesis point. They're showing it inserted into a bone. Well, it's a similar situation, only we're attaching to a bone. It's really the same thing. Now, as these fibrils come out, if you can see, these are the individual fibrils. These are the abrupt transitions. You see this wrinkly zone? That's what we're seeing on the side of the Devil's Tower. And then you see this here? This is the abrupt transition, absolutely flat. You see this here? It's flat as a pancake. And I mean, they're showing like 2 microns or something distance on this here. This, of course, is tiny in us and huge there. Now, so it's showing, you see here, 2 microns. It's almost nothing. Now, you see over here, this is very important to understand. These turn into blocks. Let me see if I can get a little closer on there. You see that? Those are the fibers. Now, it's showing you to go over to there to look, and then it's showing you from there, go over to here to look. Alright, I gotta get that. Don't get dizzy on me. Alright, you alright? I'm feeling a little dizzy myself. Oh, here we go. Now, that's, and it says to go from here to look to here. Alright, so here we are in a flat, abrupt transition. If we go up in here and look, it looks in a little closer at 2 microns, which there's just no, it's just as flat like a pancake. And then if it says look over to here, and it shows you how it breaks on these little pancake flatnesses. So it breaks somewhere in here. And that is what's called the abrupt transition. One of these will be the abrupt transition. So that is what happens to the tendons. And I'm going to show you how they wrinkle when they break. And see, there it is. This is what we're seeing at Devil's Tower. It's that abrupt transition. There are more. There's other ones up in here, and then there's the one at the flesh. There's another abrupt transition. It's not unique, Devil's Tower, but there is gold under every single one of these foot structures, and you just have to know where to find it. It's in that calcaneus arterial branch area. And I'm just telling you what it is. And the reason I'm doing this, I have my own motivations for telling you this. I have no desire to have any money made or any of that stuff. For me, this is nothing other. I do have motives, but it has nothing to do with money or anything like that, fame or writing a book or any of that stuff. So do with this information as you feel best. Now, you can quite easily see these are the tendon fibrils, and that's what they call a fasciae, which is fascia that coats every single one of these fibrils, and they keep coming down here to a point where they're the tiniest little things. There's still this hex structure, but they come down to just tiny, tiny, tiny collagen fibrils, and that is a tendon bundle, and they break off in a flat plane, and I will show you that in a second.